What's up, everybody? Scotty, good looking loser, tuning in with another podcast. This edition, we're gonna have, as usual, Ravi, my partner. He's over in Budapest right now, chilling. And we have our special guest, Markus Wolf from Australia right now, I believe.
hmm
Expert dating coach. He's been in the business for a while, and he's getting getting students and people out in the world a lot of great results. So, without further ado, let's hand it over to Ravi.
All right, Marcus. We want to learn more about you as a man and peel back some of the layers. So to start us off, we want to go back. My first question is, were you always confident, social, a person who was good with others, or was younger Marcus someone who had to learn to find his power? Can you take us back to Marcus at 18? How did he feel and how did he move through the world?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's good to see you, boys. Yeah, look, I'd like to believe that Marcus 18 was killing it and was just naturally charismatic. But the truth of that is it just wasn't the case, right? Back when I was younger, I would say around like my very, very close social circle, I was probably more that inner self now, where it was a little bit more loud, a little bit more confident, but put me in pretty much every other situation, and it was not the case. I felt huge amounts of anxiety. I wouldn't, like, at 18, I didn't want to go to a bar. Like, if I went to a bar, I'm like, I don't know how to dance. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I just remember thinking that like every girl in that place was just looking at me and thinking like, what the fuck are you doing here? Right? Like, that was like my internal dialogue at the time. So it's now that I look back, it's a bit of a blessing because I was able to go through that process that a lot of students are going through now. But yeah, it had to be discovered or learned, and it was a long process. So yeah, it's 18-year-old Mark was not a place I'd ever want to be in again. That's for sure.
That's so relatable, man. Like one of the things in my own experience was I came from a background of unfortunately a huge level of anxiety, right? It was just circumstances, it was some of the beliefs that I had at the time. And what got me really energized to change was, in fact, the amazing man who's um, podcast we're on today, Brian Harris himself, looking at someone who really wanted men to be liberated and socially free and connect with other people and be part of a community. Um, Spent many, many, many hours in my early like 20s just thinking, how can I be like this? And watching Scotty running around the streets, living a life of his own accord, having abundance. And that was really what galvanized me to say, all right, dude, don't go through this life alone. Don't go through this life like without being around people. Like this was really about having just a great network, friendships, great connections. So that really pulled me. And I'd like to know for yourself, what was it that called you to your journey and made you want to really get this area of your life sorted? Was there a particular person, event? What inspired you to take control of your dating life?
Yeah, for me, it came a little bit unconventionally, or maybe not. I'm sure this is probably how a lot of people start their journeys. But for me, it was never this case of me being a young 18-year-old and thinking, okay, I need to get this shit sorted. I want to like have women in my life. I want to have these connections. I'm going to go through a path of learning that. I actually kind of fell into it a little bit. So I was in a relationship for about 5 years. And after that relationship, essentially like she broke up with me. And for those that have been in long relationships, I'm sure you can relate, but your entire world, everything that you know, feels like it's just completely just thrown out the window. So you're used to going to work and like calling her, that doesn't happen anymore. You used to being at family events and she's there, that doesn't happen anymore. Some shit goes down in your life. Like I was so used to having her entwined in my life that after she broke
Mm.
up with me, now all those feelings came back of like, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to find anyone. And I was just, in all honesty, I was just lonely, right? And one of the ways that I cope with this, I'd even call it like a depression at the time, is that I just sit there and watch like reruns of like TV shows. So like I was just lazy sitting in my bed, just doing that shit. And then over time, I was like, I should get out of the fucking house. So I just started going for walks to clear my head. And in those walks, I'd go through the city. And then I was like, well, I might as well just like go hang out at a bar. So I'd find a bar, I'd sit down, I'd have a drink, and I'd just hang there. And then over time, I was like, well, I should probably fucking talk to someone. And so this wasn't even game, right? I wasn't thinking I'm going to hit on a girl. I was literally just talking to some guys there, occasionally talking to some girls. And the funny thing was at that point, I didn't even have like the typical AA because I was just like having a conversation. It came later when I'm like, I'm going to start hitting on girls that are all like the anxiety came. But
Marcus, to interject, were you in the
go
college loop? Were you like did you bypass all that and you just went right to like work right away?
Yeah, so I did go to I mean we call it like university here, but I did go to college, but it's such a different culture out here. So this was in Sydney, and I know in America, like for yourself, right? Like you guys like you go live usually at your college and sometimes in a different state, and so you have this like big social circle there. For us, we don't have that. Like for us, no one in Sydney goes and lives at campus. Like you're just usually at your parents' place because fucking rent here is crazy. Usually your parents' place, and you'll just drive to the local university, which most of them are like in the city. So there's none of this like, there's no lifestyle. There's like, I don't think I went to one like university party or anything like that. So yeah, I skipped all of that essentially just because of, where I live. And so, I mean, that's essentially how I started my journey. It was just fucking walking, just going for walks to clear my head. And that's how it all started, really.
I'm in the same boat as you, man. I was out of that whole college scene loop and everything like that. That tends to either give guys a pretty significant like a leg up. The majority of guys I spoke to, like there's, a large number of girls, and it's kind of just an extension of high school. If you were killing it in high school, this gives you like, to me, from what I heard, like leverage to, just continue the journey on into college. But yeah, you're right. It sounds like I had a very similar like start to you. Just stumbled upon, had to force yourself to go out right away.
Would you say that college then, because what I'm picturing, I think it's a case of if you are good with women, you continue to be good with women and it sets you up in that environment. And if you're not good with women, it probably exacerbates that too. Like you still feel like you're in this social circle class where you're at the bottom of that. Girls can see that very clearly. Would you say that's the case, or is it the case that a lot of people do get into college and they're like, fuck, I had no idea what I was doing when I was in high school, but now I kind of get more experience with this?
Well, that's a good question, man. I mean, I did visit a few of my friends, and from what I gather, like these guys were pretty popular dudes, and they slept with a decent amount of girls. But like you said, it could potentially make the situation worse. I would think it would lead to I had the propensity to like take drugs. I think it could bring out like the worst in terms of like people getting addicted to like there's more access to drugs and drinking and shit like that. And yes, you could probably go down a really bad hole. You may sleep with a handful of girls just like by chance, especially if you're above average looking guy. But yeah, it could just be a nightmare. It could just be something that you want to get rid of as well. But I think, like I said, I think personally it needs some sort of like true guidance, and you need to have an clear head and intention to like go out and actually be like, wow, this is a real thing. I want to go learn how to do this, under like appropriate situation, circumstances, really.
And sorry, I'm just so curious. When you got into game, did you know about game? Did you know it was game, or you were just like going out type thing?
At the beginning, no, I didn't know anything about game. Like, do you mean like before I even like started becoming sexually active and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, like when you were going out and shit, like was it just going out, or were you like implementing like certain things that you like seen online or learned?
No, like it wasn't until my first boot camp, really. I took a boot camp and stuff, and then that was like my introduction to like formal game and stuff. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling for me, where we would call it like sarging or game, or these terms were even introduced, really. And it was a whole bunch of fun. It was a lot of fun. I would meet up with guys I met at the boot camp, and that's how I ended up meeting Chris and stuff like that. So that was the path I ultimately took. But before that, I just had a handful of girls through either social circle, online, and that was really it. I had no ability. Like I was just like probably the majority of guys, like terrified of just walking up to a stranger and
yeah.
starting something like that. And I knew that was a
Feel
really good opportunity being in New York City or just close to it, like working for my dad and always being around women, and just not being able to capitalize absolutely killed me, man. It just ate me alive. So I knew, once my buddy like introduced this stuff to me, he's like, man, I want to take one of these workshops. I've been reading up on I read the game and this and that. He got me pretty stoked to do it. And we both got out of a bad breakup, and we signed up, and it was actually just opened up the floodgates, man. I'd never like the camaraderie of it and everybody pushing each other. And, they might not have been the best coaches, but it was like enough to really get the ball rolling, to like focus on myself and just like get people pushing you into sets. And I didn't really use a lot of the canned over. There's really, none at all. But yeah, I just happened to just naturally go direct with it. But that's kind of all I needed, was the push and the camaraderie around me. Just be like, okay, you guys have a green light to go do this now. You have permission to go do this. That sometimes is enough, really, because up until that point, I had nothing of that, nothing of the sorts, like no true master or player who was out like just picking up women on the street. You know what I mean? I had seen some like, I think like club VIP or something. I don't know, some internet stuff, like a few videos at the time, but it was nowhere near as popular it is now with infield footage of guys going out and breaking down sets. I mean, it's really come a long way, man. For the guy starting out 21 now, if he does want to get into it, the encouraging thing is there's plenty of stuff to go look at, man. There's plenty of, I mean, that could become a rabbit hole of itself. You want to don't want to stay there too long, but like, it was hard to even see a glimpse of like, let me see some guy fucking pick up this chick, like just randomly off the street, man. That to me was like the ultimate. If you could do that, yeah, you have something to offer me, And then I knew these guys were walking up to these girls, no problem. Whatever they were doing, whatever they were saying, they were getting the job done. They were getting numbers, cold approaching. So I was like, there's something to this. I really want to do this,
Last one. Yeah, I think
And you
sometimes
could
that's all
see
you
kind
need,
of like
right?
if you're not in the loop. Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
if
go
you're
for
not
it.
in the loop, you wonder like, yeah, it feels like people are kind of just sitting around and the guys want to do it, but they can't. And it's kind of like weird sometimes at a bar. Like you get some drunk guy maybe hitting on girls, but I didn't really see up until that point, like guys, killing it night game or anything like that. It was interesting, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, like, I think that's sometimes all a lot of guys need is that, listen, it's not weird and creepy. Like, it's okay. Like, you can go talk to a girl that you're into. We're going to support it. It's all going to be good. And I think that takes down a lot of barriers to actually just go and do it. So, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of peer pressure not to like act, really. Just stay in your lane. Don't do anything. Don't rock the boat type of mentality. Even when you go to these big cities, the majority of men are not cold approaching. It's just like it's actually the peer pressure not to act, not to do anything. Don't shake it up or anything like that. So it's, yeah, when you have that, a group of guys and people give you that permission and the green light, they're pushing you to go do it. It's fantastic. I think it's great. A lot of guys get a lot of results and they never go back to it, but I just so happen to be lucky to stick with it. And that's why like the after program where you can link up with guys is absolutely essential. And I think someone's like development to stick with it.
No, for sure.
See, we as humans are social animals, and being around others is part of our makeup, right? So we have evolved to live in tribes. We just respond to tribal structures. We feel good when we're around other people. It supports us mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Life is about people. It's really about the connections that we have. We go through the world, and one quote that always stayed with me was from Maya Angelou, who said that people won't so much remember you for the things you did, like your accomplishments, but really how you made them feel. And when we start to find our connection and the strength and kind of the power and charisma that's in our core and start to express that, there's something that's like deeply, deeply nourishing to our identity, which is why the cold approach journey for me was some of the most important stuff that I ever did in my life. And listening to yourselves there, just as you share, clearly your awakenings involved. Start to put yourselves out there and communicate with other human beings. So, Marcus, the question we have for you is on starting to cold approach. Now, firstly, we're going to give you a bit of love because we appreciate what you do. We appreciate that you encourage humans to actually be social and have connections, right? And build connections with other human beings. And cold approach now is something that I've done for many years, thousands and thousands of them. I don't think anyone can quantify how many Brian's done in his life. I don't think there's numbers that go that high. But for you, to pose you the next question, Marcus, help us understand. Do we need cold approach in 2024? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you touched on a really good point here. I think when people hear cold approach, they might just associate the benefits with, oh, I'm going to learn to talk to girls and I might get some hot girls. And I think one of the biggest hidden benefits that guys often forget about is that like camaraderie or that their connection with other actual guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I look at my personal journey, something that kept me going and actually kept me developing was I quickly started like just a Facebook Messenger group of guys that were just going out, whether it was to game, whether it was to hang out, we just started going out. And that's what kept me around. Like, that's what kept me going out every single weekend was, yes, there was motivation of, okay, I want to get some hot girls and this is fun. And, but a big part of it was, okay, I'm going to go see my group. I'm going to go see the people that I'm hanging out with now. And I think that in itself can teach you a lot of like really valuable like social skills that help with the women anyway. But as you mentioned, we're social creatures. And I think a big part of our happiness is having that community. So I think for one, like if you're a guy out there that is like struggling a little bit and is a little bit socially awkward, or you don't have like a huge group of like friends or a huge network, cold approach is a great way to establish that, number one, right? Number two, I think it really allows you to, like, I see it as a therapy in a way. It really allows you to face your fears. It really allows you to develop as a person, because it's a skill that requires you to actually develop to get good at. So you can sit back and just not work on yourself whatsoever, and you're not going to get results ever. Whereas this teaches you to like receive feedback. It teaches you to like push through adversity. It teaches you to look inwards at yourself. It teaches you to have like a greater self-respect and self-esteem. So is it needed? Look, not for everyone. But if there's any guy out there that is thinking they want to increase their networking, if you feel like you're feeling a little bit lonely, if you feel like you don't like yourself, if you like, I feel like it is the greatest therapy is like the way I see it. And then obviously at the end of this, you get the type of connection of the opposite sex, which I think is uniquely different in itself. So allowing you to experience and develop that love from the feminine, from like the opposite sex. I can't talk enough about like the benefits of cold approach, and what I would consider necessary for almost every single guy. So yeah, it's super important.
Yeah, that was great, Marcus. Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, yeah, cold approach is I've seen you on some of these debates. It's I mean, like I know it's incredible to you guys. You guys didn't even take a formal boot camp or anything like that. That to me amazed me. But it sounds like the Facebook group kind of like helped you start going out with guys and just opening sets and stuff like that. So you really didn't read any, PUA material or jargon. You just kind of naturally fell into it and just started, practicing with other guys. That's fantastic, man. That's great initiative, and I commend you for actually, starting that up yourself. That's great.
Yeah, I think I may have read like the book The Game by like Neil Strauss at some point during this, but
right.
Yeah, it didn't. I never like really applied much for it. It wasn't really like a tool guide or anything. It was more a story. So I think I may have been aware about, but yeah, essentially when I was going out, I as you said, like I tried looking up some stuff. I didn't even find RSD. Maybe I'm fucking horrible at searching, but I didn't even find RSD. And so when I was out, I remember.
Are you 30? Are you in your 30s, bro? I'm sorry to cut you off here. Are you?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm 33.
Oh, you're 30. Okay, so we're all like around the same era or whatever. So that's cool. All right, carry on, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, I'm old, but when I so I met this guy. I remember like we added him to like our little group of going out, and he's like, "Oh, all you guys RSD," and I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck is this guy smoking." I'm like, "No, what the fuck?" And then he tried implementing some stuff, or I just remember looking at him, and what he was doing just seemed really uncalibrated, and I'm like, "All right, whatever this RSD thing is, I'm not doing that." And he really put me off from it. Which, I mean, looking back now, I mean, a lot of the advice may not have been too calibrated, but so yeah, a lot of it was just like self-implemented. And then I met a coach in Sydney, maybe after a year of going out. And so at that point, I was already pretty developed and had kind of like my own style, I guess. But yeah, we kind of chatted back and forth, and I implemented some of his theories and ideas. So, but yeah, essentially, yeah, starting off without the material, which is tough. I think everyone is so fortunate. Like when I hear students now, they're like 20 years old and they're like,
Right.
man, I'm struggling, but I'm like, fuck off. I'm like, you're 20, you have the life ahead of you. You got all this advice. We're all here for you. You got this group like supporting you. I'm like, dude, cold approach is tough, but you've got it easy, man. Holy shit. So yeah, it's I wish I had something back then, but no, I went through it the hard way.
I
Yeah, for sure, man.
just want to build on like an aspect of that there, which I think is really critical for people who are wanting to like really change themselves in any regard. Aspects of community. Like for me, success is a team sport. It involves other people. How I got my start was through a guy we all mutually know here, Andy, and Andy's community, right? So um I'm there in my early 20s looking at Scotty and Chris, just browsing the good looking loser forum, and I see this guy Andy who's in very many ways like his story just mirrors mine. He starts off with a lot of anxiety, a lot of issues, has many demons to face, but like remarkably turns his life around, and like in so many ways, he lost a similar sort of amount of weight that I lost. He had the same sort of like issues for a significant duration. Like he was like suicidal for 10 years, man. Um, and his transformation was a massive, massive inspiration for me. And moving from good looking loser to creating his own community to kind of continue that legacy that, of course, Brian and Chris started. There was an amazing community there of men who accepted me. Like I went there obese, like 280 pounds. I was a virgin, never been on a date, right? And I just rocked up and said, guys, I'm about to turn 30. Here's everything that happened. Like I don't know what to do. But if you tell me what to do, I promise you I will go as hard as I possibly can. Everyone like got behind me. Like that is now read by like 600,000 people. So it's
Crazy.
it was a big community effort. They took me from being as fat as that with all those issues, and like really I thought there was never going to be any hope, right? I didn't think at that time I could ever overcome it. Without all those men backing me, like I don't know how I could have really done this. What it took for me to turn around the level of approach anxiety I had was a lot. um Moved to London. I was being coached by Andy and went out 4 hours a day for almost 2 years. It took 9 months just to be able to talk to someone, like every day pounding the pavement, until one day it just faded away. And from there, I've not stopped since. So I've continued cold approach. It's just part of my lifestyle to allow me to be the person I want to be and allow me to express what is inside me. And that I found as the years have gone by and as I've committed to my goals and my transformation, it's every year it's got better and better, and more abundance has came into my life. Like it's a core skill set for me to develop. Like because I've committed to cold approach and done it for this duration, which is still pretty early days. Like 3 years is not long compared to how long you guys have been doing this. But I have gratitude for this practice because of the version of myself it allowed me to bring to the world. And now the women in my life can benefit from it. My friends can benefit from it. It's made me a better human being in general. So I have a tremendous amount of love and appreciation for people who um, support cold approach and put this out there. So,
Ravi, did you get a chance to go one on one with Andy, or whatever? Did you actually meet the guy? Did you ever meet him and went out with him and stuff?
so Andy's the genius of what he has is he's built a real community of like it's a genuine brotherhood, man. Like these are people I talk to. These are my best friends in my life, right? We talk every day. There was people all around the world. I moved in with a like as you know, a good looking loser guy, right? Old
Right.
school, yeah. Um, Andy was coaching me online, but I had people I was like some of my really close friends in person who, yeah, I was living with one. A bunch of others came into my life. I've connected with so many of the people who I've met in this journey. We've done like immersion work together. Um, of course, like I've went around the world like doing what I do, and I've stayed with different people. But like
Yeah.
concerning my mentor who started me off, he was over there in Australia, man, and we were just doing our work online.
Hmm.
And whilst I will get around to meeting him at some point down the line, there's there's a lot
Yeah.
of great, great dudes out there who unfortunately I was able to befriend who literally just took me the whole way.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys did that, man. I definitely needed like I was a big proponent of coaches. Even at the time, like I had a personal trainer. I was fortunate enough to have some decent money and thanks to my dad and everything like that. And I had a personal trainer. I would, I was just a big proponent on getting mentors and stuff like that and following somebody around or shadowing somebody or learning under people. So like I don't know how I think I would be floundering like even to this day if I never even got the ball rolling with taking like some sort of like formal boot camp or something. I really think that's incredible that guys could just do it, I guess. But I do think the camaraderie or whatever, like having some form of a wing, though some casual normie wing could actually be a little bit of a detriment to you sometimes, because again, they're just sitting there posted up drinking at a bar, and you might be like, damn, or what are you doing or something. Like some of my friends that knew nothing about it at the time were like holding me back a little bit or not really doing it. That just like I can't approach. I'm not into it. I don't want to do it. So it was, it's a different mindset when you go out with the intention to actually like talk to girls and just like go out and drink or something. And it's just like not even in your realm of possibility that you could go speak to a girl. That was some of my childhood friends. So it was a difficult thing. Like it's important to find the right people for sure. You know.
Agreed, bro. Agreed. It's like the a lot of the ideas and the concepts that like you are around, they do go into you. They do immerse in your subconscious. And sometimes, I mean, it took, like I said, I'm very transparent. I had to develop from nothing, man. I'd never been on a date. Now I've been on like, hundreds, but um, like ingraining the changes probably took a bit longer because
Hmm.
yes, it was a very difficult case and whatnot. But nonetheless, like I was finally able to experience my own masculinity, right? And see how actually women respond to that, which takes us to the next thing I want to explore with Marcus. Um, yeah, this is an interesting topic, right? Um, Marcus, I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'm gonna put the same question to Brian too. Marcus, okay, what does masculinity mean to you?
Um, yeah, it's a tough question. I think to me, from a very like basic overview of masculinity, is there's a sense of there's a set of traits that women have and men have, right? And there's a huge overlap of those. But those ones on the fringe that just apply to men, let's say the more polarizing traits, I would consider them masculine. So things maybe like independence, courage, leadership, assertiveness. These characteristics I would describe as like masculine from a very like broad standpoint is basically how I tend to think about it.
Hmm. What about you, Scotty?
I don't know. I don't really give it much thought, to be honest with you. Masculinity. I mean, just yeah. I guess like it's all. I mean, I don't know, dude. I really don't know. I never even thought about it, to be honest with you. I don't know what I would say about masculinity. I guess Marcus' answer is pretty solid. I don't know, dude. I really don't. I have no idea. I've never even thought about that, to be honest with you. What masculinity means to me. Like I don't have no idea. I guess just living your best life that you possibly think. I think a lot of it's inherited. It really is. And if it's either doormat within each human being, or you're gonna like go out there and use that your male hormone or whatever is like your driving force to go take action and take control of your life to some extent. But I do think it's an inherent thing in every person. It's either just dormant in others, and just some guys you go like, oh my god, that's the epitome of like masculinity. Just we come in contact with like some people are fortunate enough to have father figures, or people who are just like, wow, my dad was like, oh my, he was just you can't put a finger on it, but he's just got that it, or like people respect him when he walks in the room, or he's got that strong presence about him. Like I've definitely had a couple of people I came in contact that I'll never forget to this day. You guys, doesn't matter how long they were in my life, but like I just, everybody respected some of these guys, and you could just feel their presence. So I just wanted to be around them, even if it was like tough love they would give me, or I was going through stupid shit with like my girlfriend at the time, and them basically like, what are you doing? Like, simping for these girls and stuff. And some of these older wise guys, that these older wise Italian guys would tell me things that I would just be like, oh my God, almost like bringing me to tears at times. Like they were just like showing me such tough love. But anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit. But yeah, I guess just something in all of us that like you just either you take and run with it, take control of it. I don't know if it's getting in the gym or doing something about your life, and using that male testosterone to just like bring the very best out of you, or use it, or you don't use it.
Both your answers are very beautiful, and like I appreciate them. And I'm gonna give mine, but it's like a bit of a more spiritual take that I feel at this moment is aligned with how I feel about my own masculinity. And it's like authenticity and the rawness when I express myself from my truth, like not concerned with what people may think about me, being in touch with my instincts and drives and what I really want. Finding that is my power. Like living in alignment with my mission and the truths in my core and what really drives me is when I feel aligned with my masculinity. Okay.
Mm.
When I would listen to yourself, Brian and Chris talking for like hours and hours, like the old podcast which you can't find on the internet anymore. Some of the things that you would say like stayed with me for like now 10 plus years. You'd say that like really is men, and it takes a bit of prodding sometimes with yourself, Brian, but then it comes out like the core ideas that they're still kind of there. Like
Mm.
we have so much power, and like um we can be a real force in people's lives. Like a more important than our appearance, the way we look, the way we speak, more important than all of that is really our heart and soul and our core, which is what gives us the determination to achieve things in life, right? That and doing honor to that part for me is how I understand my masculinity. To kind of switch gears a little bit and to explore subject that's adjacent to this, right? I wanna I want to talk about vibe, right, and our presence. So, Marcus, to go back to an answer that you had earlier on, you were talking about um, you came from a situation where there was some anxiety there, much like myself, right?
Mhm.
Um, but of course, there's many guys out there who just exude a certain like charisma, a certain charm. Um, we know many examples of this. So sometimes we understand that as having a great vibe, having a great interpersonal energy. Okay. In your opinion, can we develop a vibe and develop that warmth and presence, or is this something inborn?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a mix of both. I think if you look at anyone, there's going to be a mix of genetics and nurturing up until they get to adulthood that affects their vibe, right? Or their interpersonal energy, the way they come off to people, however you want to describe it. That can be difficult to change depending on the characteristic we're talking about. But it's very doable. And that's essentially what cold approach pickup is all the time. It's teaching you these skills and rewiring the way you think to be able to create a different like perception, different vibe, different interpersonal energy. So a clear example of that is maybe the guy is not very assertive. Okay, so maybe his personality type is very agreeable. Now this could be somewhat genetic, or it could be a learned behavior. But they go about the world and they find it very hard to say no. They find it very hard to ask or go for what they want. And this essentially creates a perception that you aren't very masculine. It's almost like a little bit of a feminine trait in a way. And you're never going to experience life to the fullest if you're not going for what you want, is kind of what you're speaking about, is being like congruent with who you are. So that 100% can be trained. Like you can teach people little bit, step by step. And it's not just with women. A lot of like what we're teaching is, okay, these are cold approach skills. How do you develop them in your life so that you can apply them for women or into game? So this would be teaching guys, like, even if it's at work, look, if you don't think something's fair, if you don't want to do something, speak up, say something about it. If there's something in life you want to do, go for it, right? So it's teaching them like assertiveness, and that's just one skill. It could be something as simple as like speaking more loud and clear. Maybe people have just had a tendency to mumble and speak softly. Maybe it comes from the idea of like, I don't want attention on me. They're being taught that as a child, or people don't like talking about themselves because it, isn't humble. And so it's like rewiring all these beliefs and adapting these behaviors so you can either fight your genetics or fight your nurturing to get it to the point where it does become congruent with you, that you do it so often that it is who you are. And then you will create a completely different vibe. And I think a real testament to that is when you hear students come back and say like, yo, people from like my childhood or even like my family, they're saying like they don't even recognize who I am anymore. Like they're saying I have a new vibe. Like there's something different about me. And that's really special to hear, because I think some guys just think, oh, I might get laid. But when they start hearing people be like, dude, you've just got this like really good vibe about you. That's when you know there's been a complete inherent change. And it's not just, I'm using some superficial like tricks on Friday night and then I go back to being who I am on Monday. It's like changing who you are as a person. So 100%, I think it's completely adaptable. It can be tough for certain traits, but 100% you can change it.
For sure, man.
That's well said, Marcus. Yeah, that's well said, man. I definitely agree with that for sure. And cold approach, yeah, is like the absolute the skill. I mean, we could just go on and on about how important it is, but yeah, it influences like the way you if you're able to get jobs, things I was doing, I just didn't even, once it's tapped in, it's like you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's not scripted. It's not, something you're like worried about. The concern of it's gone, and you're just like, holy fuck, I can't believe I'm like, it takes like you to reflect, to be like, damn, did I just do that? Did I just pull that off? I'm really in line with this, because it's like you're really, you start thinking a lot less, and you're just like acting upon instinct is the thing that I noticed most.
Actually, that's probably a question I can ask you guys is what do you think the biggest change you had within your life from cold approach was? Like, because we're talking about like vibe and change, like I'm curious what you see for yourself was like, damn, if I look back when I was like, say 18, this is like one big characteristic, or this is one big change in my life that I've noticed I've had from this skill. I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah. I have a lot to say on that. So I'm gonna check in and see if Brian wants to go first.
One big change, I mean, is the fact that I definitely take way more action in my life, whether it's to like do something I really want to do, you know what I mean? Like, or confront somebody I don't want to confront, or like you said, I do think of being more assertive is a huge thing, and not being so agreeable, especially when you don't want to, like, not allowing certain women to like do stuff to you, not just women in particular, but women, kind of like, that's one that we're really, really, conditioned to like to sim for and agree with. And we grow up seeing like, a lot of our friends, like, adhere to anything their girlfriend says. And it's like, do anything for the princess. So it's rough to just be like that dude, where that you're able to override that and like stand up for yourself is a huge factor. Like, you just don't get walked over anymore. Girls will absolutely walk all over you if you allow that to happen. They'll just do it, man. They just take advantage. That, like, I don't even know if they're like to blame for that. They just start to do it. You're like playing that role, and like the moment they smell blood, and they're gonna, it's like a shark, man. They're coming, and they're just gonna eat you up, man. So it's like you need to arm yourself, and and that, if you're a pushover and you're naturally pushover, you have a lot of inner work to do, which basically just starts with, try to really surround yourself with the right people. And that was the change. I guess it was over time that it really took place in me, but day after day after day, repetition, consistency, just like, it was no longer happening just through lots of experience with these women. So you're able to sniff it out a lot quicker than if you were just totally raw green, and you just couldn't pick up on some of the cues, whether they were cues that she liked you or didn't like you. Like you would just be like, like whatever, like you're just like going with whatever, you know, happens, as opposed to being able to spot these things a lot quicker.
Mm. Man, cold approach and what it did for me. Okay. So I start this journey, right? I go away to university at 18. I'm anxious. I don't have confidence. I don't have great social skills. My journey with anxiety started when I was probably single digit age. It was something that I had sensitivity to. I still was very, very popular as a guy. I had loads of friends and stuff like that. And I was liked by a lot of people, which has been a persistent feature in my life. And for this reason, I was able to not really confront my issues because I had great people around and they often pushed me in life. They helped me out. I've just been very blessed with the people that were in my life. Often attracted good sorts. But as I went through the journey and became interested in girls, and understood that I'm going to have to go forward and build a life for myself, it made me aware of some of my demons. The sense that I'm not good as other people, the sense that I don't have as much worth as other people do, because I was imprisoned by inappropriate fear and I was living within the confines of my own mental prison. There was so many things I wanted to do and say that I just couldn't. And it began to wound me as I really couldn't understand like what is going on with me. At that time, I didn't understand anxiety very well at all. In our society and culture, we didn't talk about mental health as much. I didn't know what was going on with me, man. So a, a big a big thing that like I do not know how many hours I spent like just looking at good looking loser, looking at Brian and just trying to understand how can I be like this, man? I can't live my life like this. I don't want to be this anxious wallflower who can't speak to people. I spent many hours getting inspiration from a lot of the other men on the community, like looking at the really incredible case studies of people who had similar backgrounds to me who turned it around. There was a number of like really notable users. One who like many of these guys did become my personal friends, and they've come and stayed with me here and whatnot. Um, and that planted the seeds for me. I I then grappled with this for like 10 years, man. Anxiety and overcoming it. It escalated over time. It got worse and got worse. And it meant that this kept building within me. And this sense inside of me, there was always this tension, this conflict. I was working hard in life. I was getting promotion after promotion. I was doing well. I had a good job as a project manager. I was very good at it. I was passionate about it. It was a skill that I had, and it's the way my brain works. I leaned into it, and it was giving me more responsibility. I had, like 30, 40 staff. Was implementing big strategies for significant audiences, like involving like 50,000 people. It was good stuff. But internally, I was completely hamstrung by my inability to really connect with people and to genuinely have like authentic romance and create sparks and be seen as a sexual man. Like I felt like a eunuch. I felt like just a brain just moving through the world, right? And I know I'm smart and I know I'm hard work and I know I've got some value, but I had this like mounting fear that I'm gonna have to go through this life alone. And it drove me fucking insane to the limits of my sanity, dude. Until a few weeks before my 30th birthday, I was at work and yeah, dude, one day just it dawned on me. It just hit me. I'm about to turn 30. I'm a virgin. I've never been on a date. I can't live like this. Just projectile vomited all over the place.
Yeah.
Fucking got in my car, just went home, didn't speak to anybody. Then went back to my early 20s and thought about, dude, I have to find these guys. I have to go back on Good Looking Loser. I have to connect with these people. I know they can help me. And I went back and read the really important people who inspired me. So there's two like really important users there who inspired me. One was Andy. Yeah, like he's been my inspiration for a very long time. Another guy was a guy from Scotland called the Bastard, who also became a good friend of mine. And I saw Andy was still using it. God bless him. He cared so much about like helping people. He was still using it. And at this point, you know, Brian was doing his thing, Chris was doing his thing, but the community was still being led by this amazing man. And he'd started his own community. So I went there, man, and just asked for help. Like literally showed up, said, guys, I'm very serious. I need to change. I can't live like this anymore. I will do anything. Yeah, just tell me what to do. So we start the journey. We do it together. I show up every single day, and I do every action they tell me to do. Consistently cold approaching, consistently putting myself out there. You know, 4, 5 hours a day, just trying to speak to one person. And it took for the first like months, I couldn't even do one, but I kept trying. I kept trying. I didn't stop. I was driven by all these memories I had of Scotty, just thinking all the things he did. Please let me do it once. Please just let me see it once. I can't die without just one time, you know. Um, and it took a lot of determination. I stayed with it. Why I sincerely love cold approaches, I went from that situation, yeah, and as I stayed with it, I can do things that Scotty does. Now in my life, I've been able to see this. There's no the most transcendental feelings that I've ever had that were beyond like anything, like the ecstasies that I felt from thinking I came from dirt, nothing, zero. I thought I was done to now walking around the street, meeting a lovely woman, and an hour back in this room. It's just, and I think to myself, I think to myself, I'm doing what Scotty used to do, man. Like seeing these looks in a woman's eyes that I'd never seen before, right? Taking a hand and seeing her face light up, right? I the gift that Cold Approach gave me was the ability to see that I do have value, I do have power. We as men, we do. It's our vibe, it's our presence, it's the stuff that's within us that is so fucking powerful, right? When you cultivate it and find it within you and you connect with it and see how women respond to it, right? That's where I found a lot of my healing and understood, no, dude, I'm in this world. Any outcome that I want, I'll get up, I'll hustle my ass off, I'll make it happen. I brought all the people I admired and respected, I brought them into my world. Like all the people that really, you know, I took I took mentorship with Andy, regularly talked to him. Brian's right here, man. You know, and there's a bunch of others. Because at its core, this taught me about success. That if you want success, if you do the work, if you just stick to the process, right? And you find mentorship, you find coaching, you invest in yourself, and you incrementally improve, you can completely change your destiny. And what more excitement could you have in life than knowing that you're free and you have power?
That's great, Ravi. That's like the what the problem is with the 20-year-old guy now. I know how, like we were saying before, how they have all these options now and it's totally changed and like stop bitching and owning. But the one drawback to some of the shit he does have is that we're instead of missing all this stuff that Ravi's talking about that you get and stuff from cold approach and how it like makes you a fucking man and the self-growth aspect and the problem with the guy now is that he's being sold also like a lot of there's a lot of people selling them dreams that like just don't worry about it, just stick with the online stuff and you miss all of that, like you just miss all of it if that's all you're if that's what you're geared towards. There's so much online dating and things like that, you're gonna miss all of that, you know, confronting your demons types of things, like, you know, instead of being plugged into a computer, like you said, you're able to look at a woman in the eyes right away and get her back to your health. There's no better feeling in the world than that. Like, you know, the sense of accomplishment and just achievement that you've like almost arrived or something that comes along with that is just a totally different feeling and can't be replicated just by like sending some girl a message. That's more in line with like an escort, to be honest with you. It's like you didn't, I don't know, there's something to it that you missed that. I'm not saying you can't get some confidence from that, but there is a vast difference between like walking up to the girl in the grocery stores, fucking looking her right in the eyes and getting sexual with her very quickly, like that stuff, and she's back at your apartment. You know, that can't be replicated, dude. I don't know. I think the woman at that base has a much deeper appreciate, she has way more respect for you at that point than just, oh, it was her frame to begin with online and you're hoping for a date type of thing. I don't know. I've seen it because I know I'd like to get Marcus's take on this because he's worked with a lot more guys than me now over the past couple of years. I've been out of the game, but like, these guys, you could see them who've just been focusing online, and I've worked with these students, and it's like you could see it eating them alive that they can't walk up to the girl. Yes, they're getting a sufficient, I guess, some sex. They're getting consistent sex, I guess, and they still can't muster up the courage to walk up to the girl, and it still eats them alive, and you could see that. So there is something that really needs to be had, and it's not just this is where it's a little deeper. It's not just the sex part. Like it's something more than that. We're looking for that, like tapping into this whole, masculinity aspect, and people say growing balls, and fucking just having the balls to go do something and just grab it by the horns, like that old, I guess it's biology, like with that hunter mentality in us, and we just go, we see something and we're hungry, we go for it and we eat. And that you're unfortunately, the young guy now does have to battle against that we didn't have to battle. We had no choice back when we were started. We had to do that. We had to go out. There was no other option. And nowadays these kids are given another option, an easier, softer way out. Yes, you're going to get all these girls that you look at on the computer, or this, we have the best program to get you, copy paste dates and all this stuff. That's the one challenge, that if a young impressionable guy has to make a decision, am I going to go with this all the way in, or am I going to do it the hard way, kind of? And it is a harder path, but way more rewarding. That's would be my argument.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that in a sense. I think the way I'd look at it is there's going to be benefits and drawbacks from like each style, each way you meet women, I guess you could say. So, I mean, you mentioned it's kind of like a prostitute or a hooker. I'm not even against guys hiring a prostitute or a hooker in the very beginning if they just want to get over this idea of like, I just need some female touch. I just need a girl around me to show me some interest, even though it's fake. Like, I just need some sexual feeling, right, with another woman. And look, if guys are like happy to pay for that, go for it. That can actually teach you a lot. When it comes to online dating, same. Like, I have some students, like you mentioned, that could not go out and even like ask a girl for the time, but they find it easy to like get some initial attraction from a girl, get them on the date knowing they're into them, and then they close them, and it gives them a sense of connection. Maybe they see this girl again. I think they learn a lot from that. But there's so many skills, there's so many mindsets, there's so many challenges that come with cold approach, you just won't get anywhere else. And so these students that are able to like, oh, look, when I know a girl's into me, then I'm completely good, I'm switched on, blah, blah. My question would be, why? Why is it that if you're not sure someone's into you, you feel zero confidence and zero competence to actually like speak to them? There's an underlying mindset there that you haven't actually addressed, right? So that is where cold approach is going to come in. And you're like, okay, to improve yourself, to get over this issue that you're having, cold approach is the way to do it. And then you can also make the argument that you might be able to find more attractive girls and hotter girls if you're doing it through the day. It's, things like this. But just from like the self-improvement stance, yeah, there's a lot of things in cold approach. And I would even argue like the same argument I would make for day game versus night game. There's guys that just day game, and I'm like, all right, you're missing out on this opportunity to really challenge your tonality, to challenge the way you can actually speak physically, to actually deal with friends, to deal with the certain objections that you face. Like, again, you could do day game your whole life, meet amazing women, be good with women, but you are missing out on like certain skill sets that you might want to develop. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's it's good to be well-rounded. I feel like I agree, you shouldn't be like hiding from one. Yeah.
I agree with that, man. I hear way too many people and some coaches be like, I'm a day game guy, I'm this guy, I don't like nightclubs, never was that. Just throw yourself, be well-rounded, because you're right. You do. I was just thinking about this the other day, actually, like your overall presence, the nonverbal ability in nightclubs, even if you don't, that's not your scene, get used to it. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. That's why we're doing it to begin with. And it's like like, dude, you don't have to, you'll see things that you were able to pull off in a nightclub, and that will translate over to day game and just be well-rounded, where your presence, your overall presence is way more important in like perhaps a loud nightclub. And that stuff is being like, strengthened at that point if you keep doing it, for sure. Yeah, dude, I was never huge on night loud clubs, but I put myself, under all these different circumstances just to see like that. you have to utilize other aspects in you to get good at wherever you are. You need to adapt wherever you are, under whatever circumstances they may be. You're absolutely right, Marcus. That's a great point.
100%.
Mhm. So, gents, we've talked about the social aspect. We've talked about the developmental side of it, and we've talked about how we as men can take agency, find our power, and start to create new outcomes. But I know, Marcus, one of the things that is important for yourself and the work that you do with men is building real connection, genuine bonding, right? Which is where we have some like lovely experiences in life, right? That are very, very healing. Um, question for you. In the modern world that we live in, which is quite disconnected, yeah, we are all having this discussion via Zoom. We're not around the campfire, right? We a lot of our friends we're talking to via WhatsApp, man. Like it's we're all spread all over the place. There's something that we all know inside though, and that is like the real connections, the genuine connections that we have, like they're nourishing. They're meaningful. They're like they do something to you, man. They really do. Um, so Marcus, how can we build more connection with the women that we date?
How can we build more connection with the women we date? I think I'm always torn on this subject of connection because I feel like in the traditional like pickup sense or cold approach sense, I think people really misinterpret connection, right? So obviously you're speaking about a connection where both of you feel closer to each other. You can rely on each other in a sense. You're obviously like seeing each other regularly. You feel that certain nourishment that we all need as human beings, right? But I think in the pickup sense, whenever we talk about, or I say we, whenever the industry talks about connection, it's usually in the sense of like some technique where you're trying to like have sex with a girl, which is, oh, hang on, she doesn't want to have sex with me just yet. I need to build connection. She's not feeling connection. So I'm going to ask her like a series of like what I would consider like somewhat superficial questions that makes me feel like I'm getting closer to her. So then guys will like sit back and then they'll be like, all right, well, tell me what's your like favorite color? Like, what were you like as a child? Tell me about your parents. And women don't feel a connection. They just think like, okay, I'm on this date where I don't really enjoy this vibe. And now he's asking me like attempted personal questions. And I find it feels awkward and weird. So like, that's why when I speak about connection, I'm always wary about premising it with that. Like, don't be this guy that's like, okay, I'm going to just try desperately like ask some questions to try build a connection so she feels more comfortable and then I'm going to sleep with her. I think genuinely, if you want to build a connection with a girl, I think it comes with emotion first. You need to be able to build, number one, attraction, right? That's a almost prerequisite, I would say, for an opposite sex type of connection that you're trying to develop. So I would build attraction through all the techniques that like we teach guys. I would allow her to feel different emotions around me. And then over time, I'd let that naturally progress where you do find out more intimate things about her. I would look to have sex. I think it's a hugely like intimate and romantic exchange you can have with this girl. But I'd be very careful to try push it because when you push it, the girl pulls away. Some of the biggest connections I've ever felt with women is when I've given it the chance for them to actually chase it. And then that develops. So hopefully that answers the question and gives you like my perspective on it. But yeah, my big warning here would be careful to like chase down this connection. It's like, meet a lot of women, build that up over time, allow yourself to be controlled but vulnerable, and allow the girl to feel a safe space to do the same. And you will feel, and she will feel that connection over time.
That was great, Marcus. Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback that real quick is that these connections that's kind of like the woman's frame if you really think about it, because we're told all the time the messages like these women will say to us is, we got to get to know you better, we got to know you better, I want to know you better. And that's, if you fall too deep into that, it's like, well, am I going to be rewarded for getting to know you? What does that mean? And you could fall into this like interview style type of thing and just trying to like get as much information from her as possible. And that's, you virtually fall into like the woman's like frame at that point. And we got to be careful with that too, because like that's what the girl is telling you. Like, I got to get to know you, because that's just from your sexual advances. Then she backs up a little bit and she's like, I got to get to know you. You got to get to know you a little better. So then it's basically born out of like you being like making your sexual advances. And it's like, slow down. I got to get to know you better. Like, and then guys fall into this trap of just like, oh, okay, so if I get to know you better, you said I would, if I got to know you better, then I get laid. He's waiting for some like reward at the end of it. Just be true to yourself. Own the fact that we want to like sleep with these women. Be that's always been my thing. Like, just be the aggressor, be the sexual aggressor. Like, go in the way you're gonna go in, dominate the frame, and that's why it's like that's how I was taught in this. It's like a blow me or blow me out. Go for it. Be congruent with it. Own it. As crude as it may sound, like that. Just go with that, dude. Like, and then don't worry about all this connection stuff. Be who you are. Go for the like prey, so to speak, and just don't get carried away when they try to throw you a curveball and say like, oh, we got to get to know me better, This is just because of your sexual advances, and keep it that way. Stick with the sexual stuff and.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there. I want to piggyback off the back of that. Like, we need to know what girls mean when they use certain language. Okay, so when girls say, I just didn't feel a connection, or I didn't feel chemistry, all they're telling you is they weren't attracted. Like, that's pretty much what they mean. When they say, I need to get to know you better, what they mean is I need to be more attracted to you. That's all these girls are usually saying, or they mean I need a little bit more trust. It's usually one of the two, because I can guarantee I've slept with so many girls that know nothing about me, like absolutely nothing.
Right.
Like, I've found out everything about them. I've cold read them. I've done all these things. And then like sometimes after sex, the girl's like, what was your name again? And I'm like, wow, I feel
exactly.
It's like I've had sex with girls that know nothing about me. Like, even my job, I'll be like, oh, I'm not sure if I can tell you, right? And then they're so hooked and they want to know. And so yeah, I mean, you need to be aware. And when they sometimes when they say, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel connection, or I don't feel. Usually all they mean is like, by the way, girls don't want to feel comfortable, right? They want to feel a sense of excitement and exhilaration. And, what they usually mean, as I said, is attraction or trust. Maybe they actually just have some trust issues, and you just need to reassure him in a sense. Like, look, here's my Instagram. I'm not a fucking weirdo. I'm not a crazy guy. We're going back to my place. I've got security there. I'm not taking you to some dungeon or some shit or down an alleyway. Usually it's that, whereas guys hear all these words, right, and they put their own spin on it. They project their own vision of that, which is usually like, okay, fine, I'm going to act like a pussy. I'm going to completely change who I am right now. I'm just going to try to ask you some like get to know you questions, as if that's going to change anything. And then they're surprised when it doesn't. So you make a really, really good point there, which is sometimes we need to be aware of what women mean when they actually speak these words. Because as we said, like when we think about connection, like Ravi, when you talk about connection, it's about this nourishing feeling that you have around others and around women. When women say like, I need more of a connection, that's not what they're talking about in that moment. They're just saying like, I need more attraction or trust. So yeah, I completely agree.
And we see it time and time again. Guys will fall into these like interview style questions, and they think that that's going somewhere. And it's because the woman threw him a curveball, and he doesn't have the balls to show his true intent right from Jump Street. And even if he does, it's again, I was told like wash, rinse, repeat. If the girl keeps throwing it at you, it's this like dance back and forth. You just maintain your sexual stance, and if she's not going to go with it, then that's it. She's not going to go with it. But like you said, it's this getting to know you stuff is nonsense, dude. It really is. We got to be really careful with that. And it's like, how many girls like one and done? It's like, it's just show that sexual intent. They know it. It's like not addressing the elephant in the room. Like, every guy wants to sleep with this girl, and just own it and be with it, man. And just don't let the girl throw you off basically at that time. It's like they're all like kind of like shit tests or something at that point. I want to get to know you, this and that. Just, you really got to take what the woman says with a grain of salt. You really do. And just worry about what you're putting out there, your sexual intent. And don't lose track of that. Don't lose sight of that, because you see it so often. The guy falls back, and then he starts appeasing the woman. It's very easy to slip back into those old habits and conditioning, where you're just being like a people pleaser at that point. Well, you said if I was going to do this and that. They don't mean what they say, silly. They don't mean what they say. Control the frame. They do not mean what they're saying. So we got to be real careful of that.
Many text Yeah. So like this is one of the fascinating things, right? Just about being a human and the dynamics that emerge between men and women, and this whole domain brings with it like some of the most interesting experiences, some more challenging. And we're gonna ask a more fun question, right? And this is just to get your opinion. There is no correct answer, but building on the question of connection and now living in a world that is more and more disconnected. The age-old debate: should a guy spend hours on the phone to a girl, or do we save this for in person?
Um, yeah, it depends what you mean by hours on the phone. Are you talking about like you're just calling her, like it's a girl you're seeing? Is this like calling her before you go on the first date? Like what do you mean by like hours on the phone?
Texting, all of that, all of that. Do we? Some people are really big advocates of like let's build a lot of value and build a vibe and chemistry via text. Let's demonstrate our lifestyle, right? Get each other following on social media and kind of build up a bit of an idea of who you are as a person. Or do we, okay, our phone's for logistics, we're going to arrange a time and date, and we're just going to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much compliance you have. Like, my advice on this is you want to be on the phone long enough that you have a goal that is like chasing invested for the meet and then to meet up. But you don't probably want to be wasting your time, right? So if a girl's like keen to meet and she's like very interested, I don't think there's a point in like dragging that on super long, right? So I'll give some like practical examples, okay? Say you meet a girl at the club, you're cold approaching and it's going really well. This girl's like desperate to come home with you, but she can't because she's got like a flight in the morning or something. She's like logistically unavailable. Then she hits you up and she's like, oh my God, I'd love to see you Wednesday. That's when I get back. Can I please see you Wednesday? I'm just going to go see that girl Wednesday, right? It's so much easier to build everything in person. It's more fun in person. Like there's no reason not to. But but to give another example, maybe you message someone on Tinder, or like it's a quick like day game approach, like it's 2 seconds, you grab a number. I know if I like tell this girl, hey, let's meet up tomorrow night, chances are she's going to say no. And now it puts me in like this really bad frame and it's going to be like somewhat difficult to recover from. So I wouldn't be the guy that's like, do you want to come? Yes or no? Okay, no, someone else. And just try like doing it like instantly, essentially. I know I'd probably need to build up some value here. So I would probably show my Instagram, show my lifestyle, chat to her a little bit, demonstrate some value here. Maybe come off as a little bit, show her that I don't have much time. So there's a scarcity there. And then I'd bait the meat. Like I'd suggest it without actually asking and get her to like invest a little bit and then go on the date. So yeah, I think my answer is it's essentially going to depend on how much compliance you have. But the minute you have enough compliance, yeah, I'd be meeting up. There's no point like wasting time for you all to go.
This is the power of being in a location where there is an abundance of options, right? I've done my journey so far going to places where I've had good logistics. And where I started it in London, there was 10 million people there. I used the apps every day. I cold approach for 4 hours a day. I built a day in life from nothing. Came here to Budapest. Again, whilst it's not as big a population, the logistics are totally fine. I can wander out my apartment. I can cold approach every day. I can meet people. The apps are fine. I get consistent leads, get consistent dates. So talking
But
about
to end off, are you going to move on logistics quick? Because really,
yeah.
just to end off on what he was saying there,
Mhm.
also with the phone problem is that guys, again, you're kind of handicapped at that point. You can only see a certain part, and unfortunately, we don't want to be the girlfriend or another friend, and it's very easy with the phone to become that guy. You're kind of in her frame. You're in her wheelhouse at that point, and you can't just treat these people like human beings. Unfortunately, it sounds crazy, right? But you can't. I could talk to you for hours, Ravi, or your guy friends, and if you fall into that trap with women, you're going to get your hopes down a little bit and they're going to be like, it doesn't matter. Like a lot of that stuff just does not matter. I've been let down numerous times with just getting caught in that trap of just spending like a long hours on the phone with these women and just as if it's a guy friend type of thing. And it's because you're handicapped at that point. You can't, they don't see you, they're not with you, they're not around your presence, your being. And boy, oh boy, you'll be let down quite a bit. That's a big problem with a lot of guys. You could get caught up on the phone and think that you're building up all this chemistry or connection, and these words that we throw around. You're bonding with the girl over the phone, and it seems to be like a good rapport. All that stuff is like, you might be, but you actually might be more likely more hurting your case. And you're really, how good of a rapport are you building if you're not in person? It's like taking, you're meeting her in person and then you're eliminating all of that stuff. So yeah, if meeting in person is like 100 out of 100 in rapport, that's going to be like, you're down to like a 5. And oftentimes it ends up like hurting your case a lot of times. So it's definitely something to be mindful of. And it's now you could kind of transition into location and logistics, because if you're lonely and you're in a small spot and you just want to actually talk to somebody like a human being, but in the back of mind, you also want to fuck them, you're in this problem. That's why we should separate our guy friends, our community, our brotherhood, have those conversations. You want to talk on the hours phone with me, that's fine. But like, it's a difficult one when you also want to sleep with that woman, right? Because if you're lonely and you don't have a lot of options, sure, I've been caught up like just talking endlessly with these girls sometimes, and it's like, it's not the right move. Oftentimes it doesn't lead to good results. You know what I mean? That's just from my experience. It's something to be mindful of. And if you are, like you said, Ravi, now if you are in a location with abundance, you do not, obviously you're not going to be lonely and spending hours on the phone with these people. Like, but yeah, carry on, man.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just quickly touch on that for 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree, right? I just think it matters the frame under which you're talking to them for like extended periods of time. If it's coming from a place of like, I'm lonely and I need a friend, and you're like platonically talking to this girl, and then you hope you're future rejecting like some serious relate, like girls need to earn your time on the phone. Like, but that being said, like if you're just spending time talking to her or you're messaging her, but it's under the frame that she's chasing for it, it's sexual, you're meeting up, I think that's completely fine. But I agree, like if you find yourself as like this guy that's just future rejecting a relationship, or you just need someone to talk to, as you said, you have friends for that, right? Like, that's what guys are for, essentially. But yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This is one of the demons that we can face when we are in scarcity, and people can unfortunately get sucked into over investing and we getting their needs met through strange women they encounter on the phone. Now, how we can turn that around, in my opinion, certainly what I did, you can situate yourself where there is options, where there's plenty of action with human beings milling around, moving and shaking. Location. Talk to us, Marcus, about your advice for guys on location and logistics for dating. For instance, will you tell a man to change locations if dating's a priority, or is this not really a focus for you?
No, 100%. Like you got to set yourself up for success. So if you're new to a skill, you need to practice it a lot. And if you're not in an environment where you can practice a skill, you're not going to learn at all, right? It's like saying, hey, look, I really want to learn how to play guitar, but I'm not ready to buy a guitar. Like, I guess I can just pretend and like just air guitar it and try learn that way. Maybe you could learn like a little bit that way. It was like some music theory, but like you're not going to be able to learn at all how to play guitar without a fucking guitar. So if you're trying to practice approaching women and there's no women around to approach, then I mean it's just stupid, right? Like you need to prioritize it. Get the fuck out of your like small little rural town and go to a city, right? I mean, if you're serious about it, I mean, look, you can stay in your little fucking rural town and just not learn game. That's fine. But yeah, when I get students say like, yo, what should I do? I can only game in this small place, or they're just trying to game at a gym. It's like, yeah, I just want to game my gym. I'm like, bro, like just go to a fucking club, go to where there's like volume, especially at the beginning where you are going to be probably a little bit uncalibrated, where you are going to face a little bit of rejection. You don't want it to be with women that you're going to see every single fucking day and just having 5 of them, right? So get the fuck out of your small little town, go to a city, yeah, that's how you're going to be able to learn.
Yeah,
Dude, we're totally on the same page when it comes to location. It's just one of those things that just gets overlooked constantly, especially in the circles that we're in. And like guys just sell people the dream that like you'll get good no matter where you are. Like, dude, it's not true. It's a game killer. It is an absolute game killer. It's an absolute it's an absolute must. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Even if you're just an online guy, your Tinder results are not going to be as good in like a really shitty small town. So that's huge, man. Yeah, that's absolutely a killer. I mean, I felt it on both ends of it. It's brutal just being in a shitty city. It's like you're handicapping yourself. It's like you literally want to go out, you can't. Like there's just not options around. It's a game killer. It's so big and it's so important and it's so overlooked too, like amongst the pickup community or whatever, like marketing and stuff like that, and selling people the dream, the student. Yeah, you can get good anywhere you are in the world. Like, dude, you're not. Like, you really have to, if you're that serious. Like our friend Chris or whatever, he was in law school and he ended up dropping out of law school and moving to Hollywood and to move into a pickup mansion. Like, that's awesome, dude. Like that. Show how committed you are about this. If you really, really want to change, and it's going to eat you up your whole life if you never take action and do something about it.
Yeah, the thing I like about you guys, you seem very upfront about like expectation results and students. Because you're right, like there is a lot of marketing out there and pickup that is just like crazy. Like it's crazy that some people believe this shit. But
Right.
yeah, as you said, like you look, if you're in a small town, you're not going to get good results. Simple as that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I had another big guy in the industry tell me, like, he was like, "Oh, you could start an event anywhere you are in the world. Like, start a big like circle of people." I'm like, dude, I just like, what are you talking about?
Okay.
Like, dude, no one is coming to fucking Palm Coast, Florida, bro. Like, stop it, man. Like, I'm not a student. Like, you don't have to tell me this shit, man. Like, people get so caught up in like selling these people. Like, if you're telling me that, like, what are you telling these impressionable like 21-year-old kids, bro? Like, just be careful if you're out there, your audience listening. Like, you really need to fucking get out of your small town. Like, you're not going to get good at this shit.
Yeah,
Mm,
true.
man, I had to get out. I was in a smaller town and nothing was happening. Nothing ever did. Nothing. It didn't happen for three decades. And I think if I didn't get out, it wouldn't happen for the next 3 decades either. I went to London, turned it around, then went around the world now. Went around Europe, got laid there. I was with Brian in New York a few weeks ago, got laid there. It's when you start to develop it, you start to get it under control. Now, one thing that I'm just gonna add is that like the work that we do as we develop ourselves, certainly the earliest, like for the first 2 years for me, the volume was really important because I needed to practice firstly, and also I was quite uncalibrated at that time. So I needed to be where there was endless options, right? So something kind of funny about my journey is like, um, I moved to London, start building the profiles, do all the stuff that Andy told me to do. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was completely life changing, and of course the results started coming. They did absolutely. Um, got my first lay, finally lost my virginity. That was like a magical moment, of course, as it is. It's a rite of passage. But then, like the next 50 days, because I was going really hard, like I was getting dates all the fuck. I did like 100 in a year. Um, the next 50 just didn't go anywhere, right? And that was like really psychologically challenging. I mean, I was doing a lot. There was like 2 a day and stuff like that. But like it was burrowing into my head, like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Is there something wrong with me? Right? And because I had the options to just continuously like work on this, and I could do my coaching and he'd explain things, he'd help me out, and I was doing some things completely uncalibrated, man, like really not normal, right? Happy to be honest about that, but because there was so much abundance of volume, I could work on it, and I changed it, and then yeah, then I was getting yeah, good number of lays that year, um. And the same applied with like as you're approaching, you can get when you're suddenly uncalibrated, you can get some quite harsh blowouts. I got my fair share of those, to say the least, right? Also, I'm a very like tall person. I'm 6'5", so being 6'5" and
Oh
also
shit, dude.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
an animal, bro. This guy is fucking
Damn.
huge, dude. Huge. He's a fucking mountain of
Jesus.
a man.
yeah. So if you're also like uncalibrated because you were like housebound agoraphobic for 2 years and didn't leave a room for 2 years in your early 20s, then that level of social skill at that time, you're gonna get some blowouts. But because I was where there was volume, like I could get some, and then within the same day, there'd be some who'd just be lovely and like talk to me, right? And then the ones that go well, the difficulty and all the seeming like challenge that you go through just washes over you, man. You feel optimism and hope, and it starts to awaken this in you. So it supported me tremendously, yeah, to get to different locations. And now I've done it for a couple of years, right? Moving around, hopping around, and just following my community, man, following my tribe. I literally live with these guys. Um, I've noticed that in different parts of the world, there's different chemistry. There's different vibe. I've learned more about
Mhm.
new cultures, new dynamics, and things like this. Um, so a question that I think would be interesting is, Marcus, do you have any preferences for locations? Do you think there's some parts of the world that are better, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, I've got my personal preferences for around the world is usually just based off like what my type of girl is. Okay, so I mean, look, I love the beauty of a Ukrainian girl. They usually like take care of themselves. They're super fit, blonde. So places like Eastern Europe, like Warsaw, I've spent a lot of time because the Ukrainian women there are amazing. I do enjoy French women. Okay, they're like kinky, they're fun, they got like a sense of humor for like women that speak a different language other than English. So love Paris. And then Scandinavians, like Swedish girls are super open. They're very like anti slut shame, essentially, like very progressive. So it's like the one place in the world where you will go to take a girl home and the friends will be like, have fun, right? Instead of, that's my friend, she can't go with you. Like the first time I was there, bro, I went to take this girl home and the friend came storming over and I'm like, fuck me. I'm like, here we go. All right, deal with it. She gets there, she looks at me and goes, make sure she sucks your dick. And I was like, yes, ma'am. I was like, no worries. I swear to God, bro, after we finish fucking, she gets like a voice call from a friend. She answers and she's like, you sucked his dick, right? I'm like, I love Sweden. This is amazing. So, yeah, I
That's
mean, obviously
crazy.
you want to do it's wild. So obviously, like you want to pick places that are really busy, like somewhere like Sydney right now. You can go out every night of the week. There's multiculturalism here. There's girls like traveling from all over the place. So, places like that are amazing. But yeah, I mean, as you said, the different cultures, the different women, it's like different feelings and vibes. You can travel around, figure out what you want, and then yeah, if you want to stick in a certain place, like go for it. But yeah, it's just fun to experience a little bit of difference,
Dude,
That's great, Marcus. Plus, you get that also. You get that real time constraint. We say false time constraint a lot. That's thrown around a lot, and it's important. But you also get to experience the real time constraint and how effective that is. And like, wow, okay, now I don't even have to like lie about that shit. You could just it's a fact, and you get to see like, damn, this shit really does work, man. Like, I'm only here for a few days. You really are only there for a few days, and then it's like it's just golden, man. Girl, I don't know what it is. Like, I may not be able to explain that great, but like I think we've all experienced that like, oh, you're from out of town. It just, oh man, immediately something changes within this girl, and she's like, her inhibitions come down, that she just like, it's a removal of judgment, like, oh, I could be whoever, or the fantasy of like not being judged by her social circles or her peers. He's an outsider, and whatever. Like, dude, oh man, I can't, the stories are endless on how many women just, when I'm like, either give the false time constraint or it's a real time constraint, they just, something about that happens with the girls. It's like, wow, you're okay, come, so you're from out of town, let's do this. Like, there's something that just takes place, and the girls allow it, like gives her permission to just act however she wants, basically. That's what I've noticed strongly. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that, because as you mentioned, not only is it the time constraint, but it's the fact that you're coming from an outside culture a lot of the time. So I'm trying to think of like an extreme example of this. Like when I was in Indonesia, for example, it is like illegal to have non-marital sex. Like it's actually enshrined in their law. And when you hop on Tinder there, it's crazy the amount of sexual compliance you get from this very conservative country, just for the fact that you're outside that country, that you're a Westerner, essentially. So, yeah, women, it's not only like, oh, you're leaving in a week. It's also, oh, okay, you didn't grow up with our slut shaming shit. You don't know any of my friends. You're not in this society. I can be whoever the fuck, as you said, I want to be. I can be like my true sexual self. And I at least have a sense I'm not going to get judged at all for this. So yeah, there's like the double whammy, like traveling, which is interesting. Like, I feel like a lot of students tend to have more success for those reasons. Outside culture, time constraints, and students themselves tend to feel less pressure because it's like, yo, who cares? If I get rejected here, I'm leaving anyway, right? If I feel like I have a bad interaction, like, I'm never going to see this girl again. So yeah, traveling is, yeah, it's a new level for sure.
Yeah, the double whammy. I didn't mention the guy side of it as well. It also not just the he's also like free of a lot of that stuff as well. So that's an important thing to bring up for sure. Interesting, man. Yeah.
What's your favorite place that you gamed? For both of you, actually. Where's your
I don't sound as well traveled as you, Marcus, to be honest with you, man. You sound like you've been all over the world. It's awesome, dude. Man, I haven't even been to South America. I'm really itching to get down there. It's not a far trip from Florida, so that should be interesting. But I guess I'm biased. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm biased towards actually New York and stuff. That's where I did the majority of my gaming and everything, and I've killed it there. And like now that was taken away from me for the past 7 years, I've gone back like once in a while, but getting a chance to see what the flip side of the coin is, it's not pretty, really. Central Florida, there's outside of like Miami, Lauderdale, Florida is not that great, dude, in comparison to a place like New York, to be honest. So
agreed.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dead zones in Florida. It's kind of like it could be cows and shit, but it's like, outside of Miami and down there, it's rough. So going back, it's like, wow, I really appreciate it at a whole nother level now. It's, right when I met Ravi, whatever it was, last month or whatever, it was like back to back to back nights, like literally just like lined up. I'm like, holy fuck, I knew what I've been missing. It's like, I'm glad I had that experience that was taken away from me. So sometimes whatever is handed to you on a silver platter and you realize you just inherit good logistics and stuff. And then when it's gone, you're like, damn, I'm really feeling the wrath of this. This is brutal. It's over. It's a wrap. Like, you can't practice that guitar. You can't go out. Like, what the fuck is the point of being, the best guy in the world or whatever? Like, who's the point? You can't play that. You can't even play the game. It's so disheartening, and my soul just fucking cries. It sucks, man. So like, obviously New York's top of the list for me. It's a tough place to game, but I just love it. I know that the streets in and out, and I got that New Yorker in me. I don't know. I just like I feel like they're prone to be more extroverted there because of like so many people in such a small proximity of each other. They have a bad rep for being like rude or something, but they're either going to be rude or they're going to be kind, but they are more prone to interact with each other because they have no choice. They have to. So it's one of the only places I've seen that many people stuffed into like a small area where like they're going to be rubbing shoulders with somebody. Even guys who don't game, you will like occasionally see the guy talking to girls and stuff. And that's also encouraging to see. So it's more common there for sure. I notice here in Florida or like Central Florida, girls are just more scared. Like, they're just, I don't know, dude. It's a totally different personality. The women are more afraid and stuff, and they're not used to that. My look and everything, my entire look, my whole persona is like built for the streets of New York, bro. Really, it sounds silly, but like it really is that way. Like, I've had girls tell me down here, like, "Are you a criminal?" Like, I've never heard any of that stuff, even with my look sometimes being intimidating. But like, never heard that shit in New York, man. It's more accepted there, and the women are less intimidated by it. So you really have to cultivate a whole new like look in general. But I would say a close second, maybe. I haven't even spent much time in Miami, to be honest with you, but I've been in San Diego a few times. That was easy to get laid out there. Beautiful, beautiful weather, city. What else, man? I don't know. I haven't gone that many places. I mean, large portion of my game has been in New York, to be honest. So yeah, probably San Diego would be a second. I haven't really gone elsewhere to like really game and stuff or even live. So your turn, Ravi. What do you think?
So I'm gonna give my favorite locations so far, and I'll explain why. So I actually really like New York too. But I'm going to preface that by telling you some of the other places that I've been to. So I start my journey in London, Great place to approach, great place to date, and I really like London. But as you're coming up, these kind of major cities, there is a need for you to be quite calibrated, right?
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just got a guy here to fix my aircon. I'm just going to let him in. Sorry, one sec.
All good, mate. All good.
Hey, how are you?
We'll
Okay. Yeah,
I'll
I'll just
just-
on the call. Thank you.
for a second. Yeah, cool. Bang on. It's got to be done. There you
No,
go.
we're not.
All
I'm
right,
not
all good.
done.
Sorry,
I'm
guys.
All good. All good. So yeah, like I earned my stripes, so to speak. I started to get some of the fundamentals down. But I found that there were some aspects that I wasn't like a massive fan on, right? Like as I then started to travel, I saw there's a different dynamic here. Went to Europe, did a lot of approaches in Poland, in Krakow, Warsaw, and found it was a very different experience. Found that I was able to vibe with women a lot easier. There was seemingly more openness there. So it gave me an opportunity to actually work more on my communication skills, my actual game, my verbal ability and whatnot. And I enjoyed that. But I found there was other aspects of myself that I really needed to develop, which I couldn't quite sink my teeth into in some of these locations. And I'll explain why. So when I came to New York, right? So I've been talking to Brian for like 6 months before that. And we hang out, spend a week together. I'm approaching every single day in New York, do like 300 in a week or something like that. So I'm out all day, just doing my thing. Like some days, like 60 approaches or whatever. And I find it really interesting there for the reason that it's like a fast-paced major city. There's quite a lot of competition out there. There's lots of very successful, attractive men out there. Women know that there is an abundance of options. So it requires you to actually really step up, right? And just to stop women in places like Manhattan, you do have to show quite a lot of strength. You have to be very calibrated, really, really adept, right? Socially, to be able to stop, be able to create like real sparks. And I was having great interactions out there and exchanging loads. And that I did get a layout there. It was fun. Had a couple of dates. It was great. Brian got himself a couple, but Brian is Scotty. So this I really appreciated. It gave me the opportunity to find more of my masculinity, more of my stoicism, and bring more of that out. Whereas wandering around like Krakow and Warsaw, some of the women were just quite nice. They just talk. I wouldn't have to be particularly great with my approaches. They'd be happy to like exchange and hang out. It's difficult, right? And for me, a big aspect of it is like I'm trying to really develop myself and be the best man I can be, and I'm looking for a long-term relationship. So I really appreciated New York for this kind of dynamic of bringing out, like forcing me to really step up and bring the best aspect of myself out. So sometimes there is utility just in that as we're wanting to learn, and that dictates that sometimes you have to find a training ground that's going to allow you to do that. And for me, that training ground is New York and other major cities like that, like London again, where there's competition, where there is a lot of opulence, success, and women know it's out there. So for you to go out and make things happen, it does require you to be determined and to really have to calibrate yourself. So I love those locations for that sort of reason. So is there any
Markus,
like
what's your top five? Just to end that off real quick. What are your like? You've been everywhere, man. So what are your like top five locations? We know it was Sweden, right? What else?
Yeah, I'd say Sweden, Paris, Sydney. I'd actually say New York. We ran a boot camp this year in
My
both
man.
New York and Austin. And yeah, New York was good, man. It was like day game for
Yeah.
days. You just
Yeah,
any
it's
street,
just
pick a street, just boom,
yeah,
there's day
yeah.
game there.
It's
Crazy.
fucking awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great.
And maybe my last one might be Bali. I just really enjoy the lifestyle there. As a like the game's okay, but the lifestyle there is just amazing, right? Like it's fairly cheap. You can live on the beach, you can have your own villa, a chef, and everything. So it's a good place to game. So yeah, they're probably I'd say my top 5.
So nothing in
Beautiful.
South America. It's probably really good, but have you spent much time down there?
So I'm not a big fan of South American women.
Ooh,
Okay, this is just a
okay,
personal
wow.
thing, right? Like I
That's a
like
hot.
my
That's a hot take.
skinny
Yeah.
little like
That's a hot take.
blonde girls
Yeah.
and shit, right? So it's like the
Yeah.
French or like Swedish, Ukraine. Like I like my little girls. So the
Okay.
whole like curvy stuff. Like I know I'm the minority here, but the whole
Yeah.
curvy thing is look, they're hot and whatever. They're just not exactly my type. And I feel like the language barrier there, although fuck it, Ukrainians have a huge language barrier too. But I do like girls that can be like more witty and fun. And I feel like it's tough with me not knowing the language. So yeah, I mean, it's probably on the top 2 of like most of our students and like most people in the game, but just myself personally, yeah, it's not for me.
Cool, man. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So, Marcus, we want to know about UMP, the work you do with men. Can you help us understand the work you do with men and how you teach men to step into their power and attract others?
Yeah, sure, man. Essentially, like if I think about our company, the thing that I'm most proud of, I guess, is we do try to keep it very unique to the student that comes with us. So our overarching principles are always going to be like start with first principles. So like find out about the actual student, what they want to achieve, because it's going to be like completely different with everyone. And then from that, build up the mindsets that are always going to be the biggest influence on their behaviors. So sort out the mindsets first, give them the skills they need and a plan they need to develop. You know, when it comes to game, it's going to be like getting over AA, building attraction, sexualizing. And then we'd work on things like sexual shame, sexual skills, being really good in the bedroom. And then the last thing that I think kind of separates us from a lot of companies out there is we do also put a focus on setting up like longer term relationships, whether that's like casual and fuck buddies, whether that's going to be like casual but serious or like an open relationship or something exclusive. We really look to coach people into that end goal because I think one of the fallbacks of like a lot of coaching is like guys will get good, they'll get laid, and then they'll still feel either empty inside or they'll still feel like, okay, I'm getting good with women, but I feel like I just have zero retention or I get really anxious about losing them. Or I have a girlfriend and like, even though I was good at game, now she's like walking all over me. So that is kind of in a very broad sense, how we look to kind of empower guys to reach their goals with women, to have like that certainty in themselves and in their dating life.
And for someone who's listened to our podcast today and wants to learn more, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so just join. You can go to Ultimate Man Project on YouTube. So just type that in, Ultimate Man Project. You can find some bunch of free content there. Otherwise, we have links there to our website and to like there's like a 2-week free trial for our mastermind, which is our like private group and everything. So, but you can just check out our free content. If you like it and it's something you're interested in, then yeah, there should be links there to send you to us.
Perfect. Marcus, thank you so much for your time today, man. This was a great conversation. I really loved it. I'm going to put all the socials below, link to the groups and websites and whatnot so people know where they can find you. We're going to check out for this one. So
It was a pleasure meeting you, Marcus. Thanks a lot for jumping on board,
yeah,
bro. I really
boys,
appreciate it,
thanks so much. It was a good chat, man. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was a great chat. Yeah,
you guys seem very chill, and you got a good message going on here. So no, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
bro.
Appreciate you.